forward to another great year at the Chamber,
We
right?
are. 2015 is bound to be an amazing year. We've got a lot of great initiatives, some new energy, a lot of exciting things going on in 2015.
And I really love your idea of honoring 40
I know.
individuals under the age of 40.
Isn't that great?
They're our future kids.
I know, and we have a very bright and optimistic future. We have so many great applicants, and we'll talk in a little while about how people can nominate those that are under 40. It doesn't have to be somebody who owns or operates a business. It's somebody in your church or somebody at the grocery store that you know, or somebody in your neighborhood, maybe in Scouts or another club, where you just see an individual doing the right thing and doing great work. And those are the ones we want to inspire and encourage and hold up so they will continue to work in the community. And, like you say, we're getting older, Gordy, and so we need to see and believe and inspire and encourage people that are younger to be involved in community.
And become leaders.
And you know what? It is a little bit about becoming leaders, but most of these people are already amazing leaders. And they lead in a lot of ways that are very public as well as very private in their homes and in their special organizations. And I don't want to give the impression that it's like us old folks giving a nod to the younger ones. These are amazing people here and now doing great things, and we want to honor that work and then give them the encouragement to keep doing it, because there's a lot to do. There's a lot of opportunity for people to be involved and to give back to the community and continue to make our community a better place.
And we want them to stay here, because a lot of people think that Metro might be the heaven or the paradise, but that's not the case.
Right, and I think that's a really good point, because these people have young families and they're coming along and wanting to invest in the community. Some of the nominations, you just see what they're already doing, and it's pretty inspiring. Just as a side note, on Sunday night I was at the Strive Banquet, which is a program of Rotary, and I'm proudly say that I'm a Rotarian. And that too, the young people, the people that are just about to graduate from high school, oh my gosh, the things they do and the dreams they have and the plans they're making, it's our future's in very good shape. We're going to have amazing things happening in the next generation, because there's some very bright, wonderful young people.
It would be nice to keep some of those people right here in Faribault.
I always say there's a strong magnet to home, and I don't think there's anything wrong with necessarily going off and seeing a different part of the world or learning from a different environment. And often people do then see the value of coming back home or coming closer to home and returning to their hometown and getting involved. But that little bit of a getaway at some point in time is certainly not a bad thing to do.
Look at your community marketer.
Exactly. He's a great example. Nort Johnson. He's grew up here, lived here for a while, got his first job here, and went away and gained tremendous experience and education, and learned a lot out in the Black Hills, where he worked for a number of years, and brings all that expertise and experience back to us now here in Faribault. So it's great.
Worked a bit in southwestern Minnesota, which is somewhat economically depressed.
Right, but he worked for Schwann's at that time, so he was working in a company that had a lot of good momentum going, and again, gained a lot of experience too. So nothing wrong with going away for a while, and we just hope to lure them all back.
That's right. We're going to visit more with Kim Anderson. We're going to talk about legislative priorities that the Chamber has during this legislative session when we resume our best friend, the Faribault Area Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah,
That's
a very nice tie-in. We just had a wonderful event this morning at our Business Before Hours, which is a monthly networking event. And man, every single month I go to that and I learn so much about other businesses, what they're doing, new products and services that they have. Today we had 3 brand new businesses that attended for the first time. The managers of the new Goodwill store were there. There's a new handyman service in town, and a company that works to coach and help manage small businesses and give them inspiration. I mean, it's just a great event. We had it at Health Finders, sponsored by Voss Floors. So I heard Carl on the air this morning. So it was great. It was a good event.
Yeah, we enjoyed visiting with Carl.
Yeah. I was listening to him this morning talking about the solar power, and we're working with him too to host an event at the Chamber for businesses that want to learn more about that opportunity. That'll be in April. So we'll talk about that at a future show as well.
Oh, yeah, he's very interested in that.
Yeah, it's really a strong interest that he has, and he's being a big advocate for that effort. So
He believes it's a win-win all the way around. I know he thinks it's a good investment and a good investment in the future.
Right. And, I think we have to explore all of those things as businesses, despite the fact that the economy is improving, businesses are not going to change that mindset of care. And, I mean, being very careful, very deliberate and timid about investments. They want to make sure that there's a strong return. I think that the residual of the recession is going to last a long time in terms of the way that businesses are cautious.
Speaking of that, and the legislative priorities, something I know we were going to touch on today.
Yeah. Yesterday, a number of business people went to not the Capitol. That sounds kind of funny, but it's our annual business day at the Capitol. But because of the construction, we met instead at the Crown Plaza in St. Paul, and the legislators came to us. So we had, I would say about 18 people from Faribault who went, and we spent about an hour with Representative Brian Daniels, and then we had an opportunity to hear Senator Vicki Jensen speak about health care to a very large group. And then about 45 minutes after that speaking engagement that she was part of, we got a chance to just visit with her about things going on in Faribault. So it's a great opportunity to connect with legislators in a way that you often cannot because they're so busy. And if you're there, you just get a few minutes and they're dashing in and out of committee meetings and that kind of thing. But we want to really give a hearty thank you to Representative Daniels and Senator Jensen for the time they spent with our group yesterday. It gave us a chance to get to know them and to understand their priorities too. But we were there to share our priorities, and our priorities as a chamber come from our association with a larger group of chambers around the state called the Chamber Federation. And so as a larger group, we study and examine the business issues through the lens of businesses. And in Faribault, that means small businesses. I would venture to say that 85 or 90% of our members at the chamber are 5 employees or less. So we want to hear from those small businesses as well as some of the larger employers about the priorities that they have. And we work hard at listening to that. And then we take that message with chambers from around the state to the legislature. The top priority for this session is about the reduction of the tax burden and personal income tax. Many small businesses are pass-through entities, and that means that they're sole proprietors or LLCs or S-corps, and the income that they personally derive comes through their business. And it's being unfairly taxed under the current system where they really are penalized. And that makes them want to maybe have their headquarters be elsewhere other than Minnesota. And this is a very real thing in Faribault, Minnesota, where the businesses are saying, hey, we love Faribault, we love Minnesota, we don't want to leave here, but our expansion and growth is probably going to happen elsewhere because of the tax burden. And we don't want that to happen. So we're lobbying, or I use that word lightly, but we're influencing or trying to influence the legislature to reconsider that tax.
Well, you look at the end of last week, they got more news that the surplus is bigger than they thought it was, and all that means, basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, is that they're taking more than they need to, right? And what happens, as you well know, is that as soon as we see a surplus number, people are lined up to spend it.
And not that those things are not worthy, they are worthy causes, but if we don't have a strong business community to pay taxes and to employ people and to lead in a community as business does, we're all in trouble. So we have to understand business is not the bad guy. Everybody who works is working for business, and let's make sure that those businesses can continue to reinvest and employ more people and make decisions about growth and expansions and opportunities right here in Faribault and certainly in Minnesota for the benefit of all of us, rather than feeling like they're being unfairly burdened, and we have to work on that.
Well, here in the upper Midwest, are we on a bit of an island here in Minnesota? Are all our neighbors lesser in terms of business taxes?
We are, and in fact, we rank 49th worst in the country on small business tax index, and we don't want to be in that category. You know, Minnesota's never going to be first or second on that list. We value a lot of the things that we're taxed for. We want to, businesses and individuals want to pay in to have the quality of life and the security and the things that taxes pay for. But we can be a little bit realistic about how much of a burden that is on business.
Transportation, on the other hand, is obviously important to businesses.
It is, and we have to invest in transportation. We think that there's some ways to do that, and we think that there's ways that transportation can be more efficient. And recently the challenge was put to MnDOT to find 5% inefficiencies, and they did it so quick that everybody was like, oh, maybe we should ask for more. So we know that there needs to be investment in the roads and bridges, and there's a lot of conversation around transit. The question is, you know, how much is enough? How much is fast enough? And what are the priorities? Now, there is a long, long list of priority projects that we might consider the top priority, and yet they're not even on the 20-year plan for MnDOT. And so I think as a region, we have to begin to have a stronger voice to say, we want Highway 14 to be finished, for example, or in our region, the communities, and by that, you know, cities and business leaders and counties agree that these are the priorities, and that ought to be more directed at the grassroots, ground level, where the economy is taken into account of that particular region. So yeah, transportation is going to be a hot topic for the next few months at the legislature, and we believe that there ought to be more of a regional approach to setting priorities, and that when money is dedicated, it remain dedicated to a specific project to get it done.
You guys have a stance on toll roads or user fees for transportation?
No, we haven't really taken a position on that one. Our local chamber did take a position recently, and it's kind of been in the local news anyway, around the Tier 1 rail project that is being led by Northfield, and we've been working to understand that project, and Northfield City Council members have helped us understand that, and we are part of a large group of cities and counties and groups and businesses that are saying, you know, let's take another look at that. We recognize that it's a long way out before we'd probably see anything really happen, but if we're not looking down the road, so to speak, you know, then you know, we're part of the problem if we're not looking into the future far enough.
Yeah, Faribault Chamber President Kymn Anderson in studio today on our AM Minnesota program. We're talking about some of their legislative priorities, and obviously, if listeners are interested in sharing a viewpoint, I'm sure you'd love to hear from them over at the chamber.
I'd be happy to take a call, or yeah, if somebody wants to weigh in, or certainly we represent our members, and we work hard to make sure that our members have the opportunity to share their points of view. For example, a recent request of us was to be part of a coalition called Better Trucks, and the coalition was requesting heavier weight trucks be allowed, and that extra axles would be allowed to displace the heavier weight, and there would be more braking capacity added to trucks. And it seemed like a good opportunity there, because truck drivers are hard to find and companies are concerned about that workforce. And so in looking at that issue, we heard from a number of our members, and there was really quite a difference of opinion about whether that legislation would be good. And so we're still in the process of kind of considering that, because we don't necessarily sign on to an issue because we're asked to. We do take a good look at how it will affect all of our members.
Didn't I see that Senator Jensen's introduced a bill on that?
She is involved in it, yes.
In terms of
The better trucking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the extra weight and all of that, yeah. And it has some value, but it also has some downside that we're learning from some of our local businesses that are involved in a lot of trucking. So we're just trying to understand both sides of that issue before we sign on.
workers' compensation.
You know, workers' comp has seen some great innovation, I guess, or some great reform over the years, and we just want to protect that reform, because the effort to kind of reverse some of those good strides will be another strife for business, and we just have to keep looking out for the fact that businesses drive the economy. We want them to add jobs, we want them to add investment in our community, pay more taxes, all of that. We have to reduce the burden. Along that line, you know, under our labor management policies is the minimum wage escalator. And we don't oppose the higher minimum wage, but we think that they missed a couple of things in the legislation last session. We do oppose the automatic escalator that they put in. We believe that legislators ought to address that on a regular basis rather than have it be an automatic increase. And then we also would like to have them look at the tiered wage, which formerly was known as tip credit, but the idea that the higher minimum wage is going to be quite a burden on that kind of hospitality industry where tips are a big part of someone's wage.
I did check on the state chamber website, and they also point out healthcare is a big priority for them. I would assume that you guys are also.
Yes. Like I said yesterday, we had just an amazing presentation from Senator Jensen on healthcare, and she spoke about, well, MNsure for specifically, and how some really well-intentioned legislation has, you know, and often this is the case, it's kind of become more of a hornet's nest than anybody thought it would. And so she's working very hard to try to redefine some things, and not necessarily talking about a repeal or anything that drastic, but to say how the rules get made after the legislation is passed really can cause more harm than good. And so she's working at trying to change how some of that is handled by the board. But there's some things that businesses need too. Businesses need the opportunity to have some competition in the healthcare environment so that they can choose how to insure their employees should they, and you know, that's important. That's a huge percentage. And she told us yesterday, I believe it's 80% of private insurance is purchased by businesses for their employees. And yeah, we all pay in a little bit and that kind of thing too to cover, but it's still the employer that makes the purchase, and we have to make that easier. We have to make sure there's adequate competition, and we have to give them opportunities to do things like stipends and self-insurance and that kind of thing to make it easier for them to continue to offer that benefit.
Education.
Well, when we think of education here in our chamber, we think about specifically two things. The career development that we really are dedicated to, where we really want to see, and I know it's a new benchmark for all schools, that students begin to understand the world of work early on, and they know that They're in school for an eventual purpose in life, as a career, as a job, as a citizen. And it's not school for school's sake. It's school for life's sake. And so we are interested in the career development part, and we're working with our local school district to make sure that that students are seeing real practical job experience opportunities and real, we talked earlier about that magnet to home, that they see that there's a wide range of employment opportunities here, from entry level to very sophisticated scientists and engineers and high level business executives. So it's not a single path. It's a very complicated, very lots of different options for students. We want them to understand that. And then also on education, on a state level, we really feel that nothing's more important than the best classroom teacher in the classroom. And so some of the current regulations handcuff school boards and school districts from making sure that that's possible.
So by that, I get a feeling that you're in favor of the change in the teacher tenure
We are.
law that
Yep,
they're
We are.
proposing.
We believe that the district should certainly value the long-term employee and the long-term teacher. They have so much to offer. But if the best situation for a particular classroom is not that one with the most tenure, that ought to be an option for the district to participate in. And we think there ought to be a rigor in the schools, and there is. But we want to make sure that we don't give a pass, to students, because eventually every one of those students, as we said just a moment ago, gets into the workforce, and we want to make sure that they are prepared and understand a little bit about the world of work and have a good opportunity for their future, and not just be done, but really have something exciting to look forward to.
Yeah, they'll be taking care of us,
Yes, they will.
when we get old. So
One of the student experiences that we're gonna do is with the Business Expo, and we do that every year, or have for a number of years anyway, where we bus in students to the Chamber Business Expo, and that is, it's just a quick glimpse, but it gives them a kind of an eye-opening experience to say, tell me about, they go, to a number of the exhibitors and ask, what kind of jobs do you have, and what kind of education might I need to get a job at your place, and what do you look for, what are the traits you look for, and they learn about what those companies produce. So it opens their eyes to what is here, what's made here, what's developed here, what kind of businesses are here, so that they can maybe see their future, if not immediately, like we said before, eventually returning.
speaking of that,
Yeah.
checking out your website, I noticed you've got a tab where people can look at jobs. There are a lot of jobs on that tab because I did peruse through it. It's just another resource for people if they're looking to maybe
is.
change their career or even just get a first job.
Right. It's a free service to our members to be able to post jobs that they have open on our website. So yeah, faribault.mn.org. There's a jobs, little jobs tab, and there are a lot of jobs listed there. In fact, today, Goodwill, a new member of our chamber, is having a job fair for all I believe they're going to have about 30 people working at that new Goodwill store that will be opening in May.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's great.
Well, we've only got a couple minutes left in the show. I think you touched on the expo. We'll probably talk on that at
Yeah,
our
we'll
next
talk
visit.
about that again, but mark down the date. It is on April 23rd, and one of the things I would like to mention is that we're partnering this year with Riverbend Nature Center, and we're because the expo is on Earth Day, and so the Riverbend is coming to honor businesses that are doing good work in being green and preserving natural resources and limiting things that go into waste and that kind of thing. So we're really excited that Riverbend is part of our expo this year.
That makes perfect sense. What a
It
nice,
does. We're
what a
very
neat
excited.
tie-in. You'd almost have it out at Riverbend.
Well, we talked about that actually, but it's just not
No.
the spaces. If we could count on the weather, if we could put you on the weather committee, Gordy, and do it outside, that would really be fun.
Yeah.
But you can't always count on the weather in April.
No, I don't have that kind of power at all.
And if I could just say, I want to remind people, we talked about early on in the show today about the 40 under 40, really a fun thing. And there's a very easy way to nominate somebody on the Chamber website. So take a look, faribault.mn.org. You can look at a lot of things there, including 40 under 40 and info about the expo. And look at that jobs tab too.
Yeah, very easy to nominate. I checked that out too.
Good. Thank you, Gordy.
Very easy to nominate someone. You don't even have to.
You don't have to
Mail
know. You don't have to know a lot about them either. You just have to give a little bit of a testimonial or a personal reference about what you think, why you think they should be recognized, and we'll take care of the rest of the details.
Well, terrific idea.
Like making sure they're under 40.
Well, thanks, Kim. Appreciate
Thank you, Gordy.
Always enjoy visiting with you. Kim Anderson, the president of the Faribault Chamber, our guest this morning. That concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota on KDHL AM Faribault, Minnesota.